Hello, welcome back to the MondAI BAIgel podcast, where we explore the cutting edge intersection of technology, law, and society. Today, we are venturing into the vibrant legal landscape of Brazil and South America to understand the growing field of AI and its legal implications. Today, this is joining us Professor Juliano Maranhao from the University of São Paulo, Director of Logarithm Association, researching in the field of AI and law. And Juliano is not only an esteemed professor of law, but also the founder of Maranhão Menezes law firm, and I would say recognized as a leading voice of AI and law in Brazil. And he is also one of the contributors of our first global report on AI in legal practice, who brought a wealth knowledge of South American regulatory frameworks to our project. Juliano, it's great you could join me.
Michal, thank you very much for your invitation. It's a pleasure to join your podcast.
You are the first guest from South America, so I would like to kick off by speaking about AI landscape in Brazil, perhaps broader in South America. Can you share some view?
The AI landscape in general in Brazil and South America, it's still under development. There are some niches where Brazil is in the mainstream, and one of them is the AI systems applied to law. As I have discussed with many colleagues in different countries, there is a flourishing market of legal techs and law techs in Brazil that not only do work on automation, but are deploying very interesting AI systems applied to law. And this may be some sort of historical accident because actually in Brazil, somehow 30 or 40 years ago, there was a big problem because a process were moving slow and this accumulated tons of papers in judicial buildings. And then there was a decision to digitalize everything long ago. And therefore, we have an impressive amount of digitalized legal documents, decisions, etc. And I think already 20 or 15 years ago, we have all the files and process being born digitalized. So everything is digital in the Brazilian judicial system. And there is another aspect, which is the Brazilian constitution imposed broad publicity on judicial files. That means the content of the court's opinion or the opinion of judge, but also the files and the documents of a legal case, with some exceptions, of course. And this is also a problem on the application of the data protection law in Brazil. So we have a large amount of digitalized legal documents publicly available. This is gold for legal techs and for the development of AI applying to the legal field. So we have many interesting applications of predictive systems analyzing decisions and precedents in Brazilian legal cases. Now the movement using generative AI to the production of legal content, which is with particular training in Brazilian legal documents, which make very powerful tools that are being deployed and used in the Brazilian, not only by lawyers, but also in law courts. For you to have an idea, 80% of the applications of AI in public administration in Brazil are application in law courts. It's really an advanced market, not only for legal practice or on legal office, but also in law courts. And there are many interesting and sophisticated applications in Brazilian law courts too. And that's why, for instance, now going to the other subject, which is regulation. It's already in force for 3 years, a regulation by the National Council of Justice in Brazil on the use of AI in law courts, which is being revised now due to the explosion of generative AI systems.
It's impressive because in Europe or in the States, we discuss whether AI should be allowed, should be a tool to help judges, but these are discussions about our future, and it's happening right now in Brazil. So what type of tools are being used in courts? Are these tools helping judges or replacing them somehow? Are there automated decisions already?
There's a thin line regarding replacement because many of the tools, or most of the tools, are used for classification and organization for the movement of the files and the processes. So attribution of tasks and moving the process forward. But there are applications which are important and have impact on decisions. For instance, groupment by similarity, as there are many processes in Brazil. Really, the Brazilian judicial system is saturated and we need solutions to speed judgments. One of the tools which is largely used by courts is the grouping of procedures and files of different cases by similarity. So it's analyzed the documents. These cases are similar, so they are grouped for this joint decision. So a judge will decide, of course, it's not a substitution, but the classification of the files by being on the same subject and that regards the same legal thesis is done by machines. So, of course, in part, there is a judgment. The judgment that this case is the same and regards the same thesis, which is made by a machine. The final decision is by a judge. But regarding each case, it's a machine that decides if it's similar, if it's regard the same thesis. So we have also applications of systems where it filters automatically the cases that are going to be decided by the Supreme Court. Of course, they are revised, but the judicial procedural system in Brazil is quite complicated and complex. So many of the actions admit an appeal to the Supreme Court, which makes the Supreme Court saturated with thousands of cases. So these systems has helped the filtering of this case. It reduced the time of analysis to a large extent. So there is human revision, yes, of course, but actually the amount of cases is so large that I have serious doubts that all this filtering is really revised by humans.
Okay, so my first research background is constitutional law, and I've been researching a lot on constitutional system and human rights. So my first interest would be if it's not any breach of right to court access or to fair trial. In Europe, we have such the discussions to what extent use of AI would breach the fair trial right. However, I may agree that justice delayed is justice denied. So if we have justice after many years, then we have no justice at all. And I agree. So are there such the discussions in Brazil, and what's the balance taken?
Well, let me clarify what this filtering model does. I think it's important due to your excellent question. Actually, the filtering process, the process that are going to be decided by the Supreme Court are those which has significant economic or social impact. Mm-hmm. So the AI system is not doing this analysis, which would be, if it did, it will be the most sophisticated system of AI that we know. Actually, there is a previous stage in this analysis, which is there are already decisions by the Supreme Court on a group of 300 or 400 theses that the Supreme Court has already decided. So the first analysis is the Supreme Court has already decided this issue.
Okay.
If it not, then there is the analysis of if this new subject matter has social or economic impact. So the system is a classifier. It was noticed that 80% of the thousands of cases that come to the Supreme Court are related to 25 theses. So what it does is this new case is related to one of these 25 theses. So this is the main filter. If it is dropped, the case is not accepted. So it's a simpler analysis, even if there is substitution. So conceptually, the question is very important. And as I said, it's not credible that all cases go through human revision. There is automation effectively of this analysis of these 25 theses that were already decided by the Supreme Court. So is this violation of rights regarding access of justice? It depends on the transparency regarding the criteria that the system, which is called Victor, offers to users of the system. And I believe the degree of transparency is not enough. It's a simple task, but it should be more clarified and should be transparent what are the criteria of decision.
Okay, but it's still impressive. And since you have so many data and so many public access to files and data, how far is the research on AI and law in Brazil? It should be like a gold mine for experts like you on AI and law field to have access to so many data.
Actually, in the field of research, there is more research and more much more works on empirical analysis and jury metrics on the works of law courts, which is quite important because it increases the democratic control of the work by these courts. So there's plenty of publications in Brazil on data analysis regarding the performance of Brazilian law courts in many fields of law. But unfortunately, there is not really much research as it could be on application of AI tools to law. I think this landscape is now changing because of the development of law texts and legal texts, because actually much of these texts has joined jurists with computer science. And sometimes it's just automation, but sometimes they are developing things that are on the edge of research on AI and law. One of the tenets of Logarithm that was created in 2017 was to exactly to do that. So try to bring together research on academic research with those initiatives in the market of law texts and legal texts.
Okay. And how are Brazilian lawyers integrating AI into their practices? Are there any trends or innovations that you observe? Are your observation in line with the outcomes of our report? Is the use of AI so popular as we see from the report that over half of lawyers use somehow AI?
Well, that's something I really want to inquire in the next stage of this research. If I were to believe all the marketing by law firms and legal techs, then I would say that there is plenty of applications of AI in law firms and etc. But I'm not sure if this is really true. Many of the applications are just automation. They do not deploy actually intelligent or machine learning.
Okay.
So I think that we should not trust exactly in all those marketing practices, and we actually would have to inquire precisely what is being used for what purpose, and but of course, since there is a market of law text, the services are being offered, and these are firms which are on the market. They are profiting, so law office are consuming this product. So I believe there is an important application, but not as is propagated by the marketing either of law techs or of law firms nowadays, because we are living exactly in a hype. So we have to take care on and not believe everything at face value. And now there is also use of generative AI tools like GPT. And I'm conducting and leading a research by the National Council of Justice on the use of ChatGPT and other chatbots by magistrates and officials that serve these magistrates in the judiciary, because the National Council of Justice wanted to regulate generative AI, and they called me as an external advisor. The judges were already working in the regulation, and I asked the question, do you know how or to what extent the officials and magistrates are using GPT and for what purpose? They said, we didn't make this question, I have no idea. So in order to regulate, I think this is a preliminary question, you should reply. And so they said, well, that's a good idea. And it started conducting a research to inquiry. What are the uses exactly, for what purposes? I think a similar research should be done regarding law firms. Because actually, before these general purpose systems which are now available, we have a better grasp on which systems are being used, because they are specifically developed for particular applications. So it's more controlled, either on courts, on law offices, if AI is being deployed. Now it's completely out of control. We know it's being deployed, but we know we're not sure how or by whom. And so this must be researched.
Yeah, this is why we, with Michał Araszkiewicz, we decided last year to make this first survey and check the data. And this is why we decided to start a second report to check if the data are up to date, and if it was the result of the hype phase only, and how the reality looks like. But at the end, I would like to ask you one more question about AI and regulatory landscape. Is there any hot topic in Brazil or South America generally that is related to AI, for instance, IP protection, data scrapping, or some other topic that is so hot in Europe? It's of course AI Act that is coming. In the US, as I discussed, it's all these disputes against LLMs by New York Times or other newspapers, actors, and public personas. Is there any such topic in South America?
Yes, I think within South America there is a legislation recently enacted in Peru, but it is quite general on just listing general principles or values regarding AI. But this is a hot topic in Brazil. There are already some regulation in force by regulatory agencies, like the central bank in Brazil has already regulated credit scoring by AI system. There are regulations on the regulatory agency on the health sector regarding software as a medical device. So we have some specific regulation by administrative agencies. But the hot topic nowadays is the discussion of the Brazilian legislation on AI, which started on 2020 on the Chamber of Deputies, and a bill was approved in very few time, in an urgent track. And it was also a very general document. But then the Senate, when the bill came to the Senate organized a commission of jurists to discuss and to prepare a new bill. I was part of this commission, and the resulting document was quite inspired by the European AI Act. And then in 2023, the work resulting by this commission of jurists was presented as a new bill, which is now under very heated discussion by many sectors of the industry, because at some points, the Brazilian bill is even more restrictive than the AI Act. So this has created a huge polemic. There is already a new version after the work on the Commission of Jurists that include provisions regarding generative AI. and other aspects, other details that will demand a lot of time to discuss. But the idea is that we would have a bill here in Brazil promulgated by the end of the year.
Okay, it's extremely interesting, especially for me as European lawyer, because we are told that we have overregulation. So if we see that someone is inspired or even
You have
even
to
more
see
restrictive,
our regulation.
so I would like to see this this final bill. I hope you succeed to adopt a new law that it's not overregulated, but it's in point.
Yeah, I think it would be very interesting for you to take a look, because one of the main differences is that the Brazilian legislation included a chapter on rights regarding AI. It not only rights regarding transparency, but a whole set of rights regarding many other aspects of AI governance. So this means that the agents are not only obliged before an authority to adopt risk management systems or governance systems, but also they are obliged before the citizen or users that may be affected. And this brings also the judiciary for the enforcement of the AI law. And I'm against this solution. This is under a strong discussion because I think it's a problem if we bring also the judiciary to enforce the AI law, since it can imply some insecurity and uncertainty regarding the content of decisions, because there are many courts that may adopt different and conflicting decisions.
Yeah, I wonder how well prepared the judges are. I'm afraid that here in Europe they wouldn't be for some time yet, and I suppose the same may be in Brazil. So making them understand AI and law, it's a long way in front of us. Great insight, Juliano. Thank you for sharing your insights and shedding light on these issues. Thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you very much, Michał. It was a pleasure, really.
And to our listeners, thank you for joining us today on the MondAI BAIgel podcast. Make sure to subscribe. Stay tuned for more discussions that connect the dots between technology and law. Until next time, goodbye and take care.